So I should really introduce myself. My name is Dilara Earl, and I work at Definitely Theatre. I am the youth coordinator for Definitely Youth Theatre. We'll just wait for a few more attendees to join us, so do bear with us, please. I hope everyone's day has been lovely.
Yes, it's been good. I mean, we could use some more sunshine, couldn't we? It's a bit gloomy today. We need a little bit more of that sunshine. Mary Jane said, yeah, I've had lots of sunshine.
Dilara, yesterday the weather was fantastic, wasn't it? What a shame about today.
Yeah, Deepa, yes, it was.
Dilara, now this hopefully means that we will have a great summer ahead.
Mary Jane, yes, hopefully, and Deepa, fingers crossed.
Dilara, okay, I think we should start. So let me just briefly introduce our panelists. We have Chris Fonseca, dancer and choreographer. Hello to Chris. Chris, hello everybody. My name is Chris and this is my sign name, CF, my initial. I'm a dancer, choreographer, a dance teacher. What else am I? Let me just warm up my hand. Hang on, what else do I do? I suppose these are the main elements of my career that I will be talking about. Choreography and dancing, yes. Dilara, lovely. Over to Deepa. We have Deepa Shastri, who is a producer.
Hello there. My name is Deepa. I'm so pleased to be here, and Definitely Theatre has invited me to be part of this panel. I've been an actress, a TV presenter, BSL consultant. I've worked for an arts accessibility company. I've done so much, but I know tonight we're focusing on my role as a producer.
Dilara, oh wow. I'm sure we'll have time to talk about your plethora of roles. I'm sure we will. Oh, and last but not least, we also have Mary Jane.
Hello there. I am Mary Jane. Don't forget the hyphen in that. It's very important to me. If it's gone, I lose my identity completely. So it's Mary-Jane, and this is my sign name. I'm going to talk about stage management tonight, specifically focusing on that. But throughout my career, I've been part of drama workshops, facilitators, theatre, producer, script writer, BSL, poetry, actress, performer, lots of different things. Loads, too many to go into, but I'm going to focus on stage management, and I'll fill in some other bits as well, and obviously director as well, but I will stop there and hand back.
Laura, wonderful. Thank you very much. Now I'm excited to learn some new things about all of you and from you. Okay, so usually we think of the words in theatre, usually the words we think of are actor. But actually, there are so many different roles. You know, we've got to think about the technical roles. There's lighting management, there's stage design, there's choreographers, there's stage management. There are so many different roles. And I think we are probably in agreement that actually, you know, career pathways don't have to be fixed in life. Our journeys can take us to so many different places. And it just means that there are so many different opportunities out there. So before we get started, there will be an opportunity for you as audience members to send us any questions you may have for our panelists into the Q&A box. Now at 6:45, we will go through that and we will have an opportunity to get some answers to your questions. And then what we will do at 7:20 is we will have some general questions. We will talk about growing up, your background, your industry area, your experiences. Okay, let's get started. So what I would like to know is what first inspired you to work in a creative field. So whether it was the theatre, whether it's dancing, Was there a specific time? Over to Mary Jane, perhaps.
Yeah, I'll happily go. I did kind of a basic course at college called Technical Theatre, which was good. And that really inspired me because at that time I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, but I knew I loved the theatre. Like I said, theatre is wide ranging. So to pin it down, definitely I found my passion for stage management. And then I went to university, Reading University. I did theatre, drama, and deaf studies, lots of different modules, but also I was supporting other students with their plays. So I was stage managing their plays, so doing the lighting and so on. Then after that, I graduated from university, and my passion was stage management still. I was then involved in Grey Eye Theatre for 2 weeks, and it was a work experience placement. And it was the action of the diary of an action man. I thought, oh gosh, it was so long ago. I think that's the right title, The Diary of an Action Man. And I absolutely loved it. And since then, stage management has been my passion. Obviously, from 2005 or 2004 roughly to 2009, that's what I focused on, but mostly was involved in deaf theatre. And disability theatre mostly, so not kind of mainstream hearing companies.
Oh, wow. That's a fantastic experience. Perhaps over to Deepa?
For me, I started working after university. I was involved in deaf organisations, and then I travelled. Once I came back from my travels, I saw Stage Text. I saw a company called Stage Text, which provided the subtitles for plays and things and theatres. And in the past, when I was younger, I'd been involved in drama, did some acting, workshops and things, but I hadn't really acted properly at all as an adult. I didn't get it because it was an admin role, and they needed someone hearing to answer the telephone calls and so on. I completely understood that at the time, but they noticed that I had potential and skills with project management, so they offered me a 3-month placement. It became extended, and then I ended up working there for 15 years, had a working relationship, and I still work for them now. But I'd had breaks in between that. My first break was because the funding had run out, so I had to leave at that point. And it made me think about what to do. I panicked and applied to so many places. I applied to Sense, the deafblind charity, and I applied for, at that time, it was before the London Olympics, 2012. It was a professional development placement as an associate producer. I didn't have a clear idea about where I wanted to go, to be honest. So like Delara said, really, I wasn't sure about what direction to take. So Sense asked me to call them to let them know. I'm jumping ahead of myself. I got an offer from Sense and an offer from the London Olympiad, and I wondered which to accept. I was also looking to buy a house, needed to get a mortgage, and of course it made sense to go for the safe option, the safe job, and it was a permanent job, whereas, the London Olympics was a time-limited offer. So I phoned Sense. I was still unsure when I made the phone call, to be honest, about whether I should go for it. When I went to go to the phone, something in my gut told me to say no, and that's when I knew that it was what I wanted to focus on. Definitely, I wanted to focus on that creative world, more expressive world, and it was fun. It was a fun process developing this thing, but it made sense at the time to go for the safer option, but my heart wasn't going that direction at all. So luckily, I took the path that I'm still on now.
Delara, I think that's absolutely true. You have to follow your gut a lot of the time. That's what life is. I've got goosebumps actually from that.
Mary Jane's completely agreeing with that, yes.
Chris, how about you? think looking back, I went to Wolverhampton University and I studied graphic design. And a deaf friend of mine just said to me, "Oh, I think you've got the potential to be a dancer." And I said to them, "Well, oh yeah, prior to university, I was really keen about dance, and it was kind of an on and off passion of mine. I'd never ever seen a professional deaf dancer. There's no role models out there. So it was really hard for me to envisage myself in that position. So I obviously got accepted to my graphic design course. I started to do that. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to graduate. I'll become a graphic designer. But throughout university, my friend then suggested to me, well, why don't we establish a deaf dance group? And I thought, all right, why not? Let's give it a go. So I think there were 8 or 9 deaf people. We got involved, we were learning from each other, we were teaching each other, and it was just brilliant, And I remember the first time I ever performed was at Deaf Fest, which is a festival in Wolverhampton. And Deaf Fest is, a festival that celebrates deaf talent. And after that, I started touring the UK, and then we were touring Europe in this dance group as well. It was fantastic. And then I was in my final year, and I was thinking, oh my God, I need to focus on my studies. And it was trying to establish that work-life balance, obviously. But throughout my final year, I focused on my studies, got my degree, and then I moved back to London. I was trying to look for graphic design placement. They were so competitive, and trying to find a job there, was really difficult. So I had to volunteer initially. I was involved in so many different roles in London as a volunteer. And then at Starbucks, I worked there for a year, and that was at the same time that I was still trying to look at my own professional development as a dancer as well. So I was really trying to do that at the same time. And then, I was trying to build my social media platform as well, and I was really trying to get a reputation. And then I had an opportunity from Smirnoff. We all know, obviously, the Smirnoff brand. They offered me the opportunity to have the main role in a TV commercial. And I was like, oh my God, okay. I wasn't sure what to do about my job, so I asked for the day off. And I got the day off, which was great. And then obviously I really enjoyed that experience. I then got a buyout. So it meant that a client actually paid for my time to be in the commercial. And then, people from the advertising world have to buy the advert to put onto channels. So obviously that's what's called a buyout. So I was like, oh my God, I'm getting a buyout. This is insane. This is crazy. So then I was thinking about my job at Starbucks. Like, do I want to resign from that? I don't know. I was talking to my friends, like, what should I do? My friends are saying to me, look, follow your instinct. You need to, it's time. Just move on. Let's move on from Starbucks. My parents are saying, no, I think you should stay. It's a salary job. But then I thought, right, do you know what? I need to weigh up the pros and cons. Don't listen to my friends. Don't do it for my friends or my family. I need to do it for myself. And it was a complete game changer for me. I decided to resign from Starbucks, and I've never looked back. The rest is history, as they say. And I've carried on achieving from there. Dilara, fantastic. That's brilliant. I think you followed your dream, and that's brilliant. Well done. Thank you. Now, obviously, as we all know, COVID-19 came along in 2020 and has completely changed the world. What kind of effect would you say you've seen, just in terms of your own creativity? Has it had any effect on you, being in a pandemic and a lockdown? Over to Deepa.
Yep, I'll go. Before COVID, I was doing a lot of BSL consultancy work, working with deaf and hearing actors, with interpreters as well, kind of, working with translating and so on. So, of course, once COVID hit, all the theatres closed and loads of deaf people were left with no work, all the projects finished, and I wondered what on earth to do at this point. So I thought I would use that time to self-reflect and take some time for me. Looking back, I'd always wanted to produce, but never really had the opportunity to focus on it properly. And also, I'd seen a lot of deaf theatre creatives and realised, actually, there's not really many deaf producers. And so at that point, I realised I needed to focus on that. And that's how I then adapted. For any deaf theatre creatives who need a producer, I thought that was a gap that needed addressing. So, if you're deaf and you're using BSL as your language, it's so important to have that engagement rather than to be with a hearing producer who doesn't have that shared language and cannot communicate with you directly.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Mary Jane.
Yeah, Mary Jane. So really when COVID hit, I was in Romania. I know that's a weird thing to say, but I was there. That's where I was. I was doing a course over there, and then obviously the world changed overnight, so I flew back straight away. For me, everything changed. I felt like the UK wasn't really my home anymore. I can't describe it. You having to wear gloves, having to wear masks now, but because in Romania it hadn't really hit yet. That came later, but Britain was way ahead. So it really hit me coming back to meet how strict it was. And again, I thought, what do I do? How can I still be involved in drama? It was impossible. Before I'd done workshops, created plays, script writing, but that didn't exist anymore. So I spent my lockdown applying, sending off so many applications. I can't tell you how many I wrote. None unsuccessfully because of the competition. I realised so many people were applying for funding through lockdowns, which means the competition really heated up. And I realised, obviously, with my level of English, maybe that's not what they were looking for. I don't know, but I really reached a lot of, I came across a lot of barriers. Still applied, still kept going though. And finally, I got the Definitely bursary, which obviously was quite a relief at the time, which really helped. So thank you to Definitely Theatre for that.
You're very welcome.
So it meant I had an aim. I had something to do. So I was back to doing what I love. And it was D-Drama. And that was what the company was called. I think it was, I can't remember, 2013, 2014. I think it was to 2016. So it was a 3-year project. And then, unfortunately, the person passed away who owned the company. And really, they were relying on the profits from the tickets more than anything to keep the theatre going. So paid for accommodation, for travelling and so on. We relied on the profits for the tickets, so I was working voluntarily. Unfortunately, that person passed away, and it was put on the shelf for a while. So thanks to lockdown, actually, it made me think, right, what do I do with that? What are my dreams? What's my aim? And I took this project off the shelf, and I thought positively, and I thought that's what I can do during lockdown. And so really, although the world was, turning on its head, I was taking some positives from it.
Dilara, yes, I think that's the same. I think for everybody, we've all had to self-reflect, haven't we, and think about what we're doing with our lives. Shall we move on to a different question? Okay, so talking about tokenism in the theatre industry. This can be quite a big topic. How do we avoid that, and how do we build actual relationships? Chris S. Yes, I think personally for me, as you can see, I'm a black deaf man. I'm a black deaf artist. So it means that I've got 2 areas of discrimination, if you like, sometimes, or 2 areas of perhaps tokenism. So that always occurs to me whenever I apply for a job. If I get offered a job, at the starting point, before I move forward, I have to think about, how do I build this allyship with them? Do they want me is it a tick box exercise? Is it just to make sure they're as diverse as they can be? And then when I'm, performative allyships, I think that's really important. I think, if you're working on a platform and things, I always think, right, is this also a tick box exercise? I just think you have to be really careful, and particularly, outside, if it's someone outside of my own network and I don't know who they are, I always question their motives. I do always want to make sure that, this is going to be a long-term thing. This isn't going to be a tokenistic move. You're thinking about your future, and you're thinking about how you can change things in your part. So, you've got to think about Black Lives Matter. We've really talked about, performative allyship. We need to think about the industry. We need to think about diversity. It feels like people are starting to wake up and they are starting to be more proactive, but there still needs to be more of that. So, Lara, I completely agree. Deepa.
Yeah, thinking about my role as a BSL consultant previously, I had to face a lot of challenge, and I had to challenge people actually and ask, okay, you want a deaf person involved, a BSL user, and they never did. They just thought, oh, BSL looks beautiful, but they hadn't really thought about what it means to have a deaf person within their plays or so on. And it felt a bit like tokenism, really. So I really had to educate them about what it meant. And I thought, and I asked them, okay, have you thought about getting a deaf person involved? Explained why it was better to have a person who could sign at a good enough level rather than they teach someone from scratch to sign and them not do a very good job about it in the end. Maybe they thought, oh,
it might be good to have somebody as part of a deaf audience, to really bring in the deaf audience, which is nice. But actually, at the same time, is that authentic? Do you think a deaf audience will understand somebody who's had a very short time of rehearsal for BSL? And that conversation is really important. You need to have those conversations, but you need to be careful as well. And if we think about intersectionality as well, that's also important. I'm not one type of Indian person. That's not all I am. You can see whether I'm a traditional Indian person. I'm not. I grew up here. I went to boarding school, and you just learn so much, don't you? You're exposed to so much. So all of those life experiences add to who you are. And I think that's something that we all need to be much more aware of. And if we're more involved in that creative process, it shows people that we are a diverse group of people. We're not just the same old. We're not stereotypical deaf people. We are all different. We all bring something different to the pot. And I think that's really important, and actually just learning about different people's backgrounds and looking about, if deaf people are writing stories, it's really interesting to see individual deaf people's stories, and that hopefully will reduce tokenism. That will mean that will get eradicated eventually, hopefully. It will take time though. Delara, yes, hopefully. Mary Jane.
And I'm thinking about stage management in a backstage situation. Tokenism doesn't happen there because they avoid employing deaf people, so it's a complete opposite. So thinking about using the cans on stage with the microphones, they're probably thinking about how deaf people can communicate, thinking about the cues, the calls, and so on through stage management. All those different aspects, they're thinking how. So they avoid actually putting a deaf person in that situation. And I think I'm the only one in the UK, and I'm thinking between that time that I was working, I think I was the only deaf stage management. Thinking about LAMDA, the London, what's the acronym? London, what is it? Academy of Music and Dramatic Arts, that's it, LAMDA. They did a stage management diploma course. That was quite a while ago, I think 2009 or so. And I went to that and really had to educate them. I mean, fancy that. They should be educating me and teaching me about the theatre network, how to look for jobs within stage management and so on. But I had to educate them about how to be inclusive of deaf people backstage, especially. I said, things can work very visually. Thinking about, the flashing, the old pager, that flashing right. Obviously, technology has moved on so much since then. Accessibility is now the key to everything. But deaf people can. They can become stage managers. They can become lighting designers, sound technicians, and so on. It's so visual. Thinking about all the different aspects that you can do with sound. Thinking about connecting connectors and mixers, they're all visual. So I was a little bit gutted that with acting, definitely it grew, like you said, Deepa, but I would love to see stage management grow. And it is getting there. But backstage, wardrobe, stage design, um, all the things that happen backstage. We need more deaf people involved. There is the potential, and I don't think people realise that. Some people said, "Oh yeah, I like painting," and I said, "Well, what about stage design?" And they're keen once they hear that that's a possibility. Thinking about making clothes, seamstresses, and so on. That's part of design as well, but they never thought, they never associated that. They think it's more to do with the fashion industry, but it's me educating them and saying, actually, within stage management, that's part of it. And everyone's working visually to make this play happen. So working with the cue, getting the lighting cue, actors on and off stage, all that stuff is part of backstage management. And I carry everything: plasters, sewing kits, and so on, creams, just in case, tissues, in case people need it at any one point, a hammer, screwdriver, everything in my little kit bag. It's all there, and I still do it till today. I take my little kit bag with me.
Mary Poppins.
There you go, definitely Mary Poppins, and it matches my name perfectly, doesn't it, Mary? But really, stage management, it's strange how, tokenism does happen, I think, in front stage, so thinking about actors and so on, but backstage, no, you have this avoidance. So how do you get people in and teach them and explain to them and educate them that there is a way?
Deeper?
And that's another reason, actually, why I became a producer, so that I can control that, to minimize tokenism, to recruit people, diverse people, and control the decisions that are made. It makes a huge difference if you're working with a director as well. So working together, and that's why I decided to change and go on this path. Mary Jane saying, yeah, definitely.
So that's a really nice thing, actually. And I don't know, at the end of the day, we know what's best for us. We know what's best for the deaf community. So I suppose, in as briefly as you can, how do we fight for this? How do we get this? I remember, growing up, I was always terrified, I think. Yes, I was quite confident, but there was always a struggle in terms of how to be direct about what I needed or what I wanted. Deepa?
Yeah, Deepa, I think you have to remember that maybe they've never met deaf people before. They've never met a deaf person. If we want to be successful, then we have to create those opportunities. We have to kind of get word out there, and we have to be confident about expressing our needs. Don't tiptoe around people. You don't have to prove your experience, but you have this experience. You have so much that you can offer, and I think it's important to express that. And I'm talking about me now. I've been in the arts world for 21 years, I think, and it has been a lot of educating other people. When I was young, I was so nervous, and I thought, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? All these people are older than me, and I've come in, and I'm like, what do I do? And I saw other people explain, and I learned from that, and now I'm the one who can explain for the younger generation coming through.
Chris, yeah. So just thinking about what Deepa said, that's quite similar to my experiences as well. I think you can understand sometimes if it's, it's the first step into something that you're really passionate about. It's really scary. It's scary for everybody. You always have a vision of what you want to achieve. You want to do this now, and maybe it's something that you can do tomorrow, but you have to be patient. I think that's really important. That's really helped me, actually. So there are three things. So I think passion is really important. That then leads on to your motivation. You need to remain motivated and hungry for what you want, and to be able to work hard to have those ideas and to fight for it. And I think the second thing I would say is persistence. Keep on at that slog. It's a really long, hard slog. It's very easy to give things up, but actually remember why you started that journey. Why have you taken that step into that industry? Think about the finish line. Think about what you're going to achieve, where you're going to get to. And at the end, when you do achieve it, that feeling is amazing. And number 3, my third tip would be patience. Patience is key. I think it's the one key of success. Absolutely. It's the key of everyday life for sure. And I just think patience is so important. Yes, have a goal, have a target, but be patient as well.
And yeah, Miss Mary Jane, I'd like to add something as well. Thinking about stage management, I stopped about 2009 just because of lack of opportunities, and I moved out of London at that point where there were lots of opportunities. I moved just outside Birmingham. Backstage careers, I was looking at applying, but it was quite difficult, so I broadened my skills, and that's good. That was okay. It was a fantastic opportunity to have kind of a lot of different skills that I could use and fish out at any point. And I think I focused more on drama workshops at that point, directing, theatre making, worked with masks, mask workshops. It was called Vamos, which was a mask making workshop. And I worked in so many different creative opportunities, and that was okay. I think you can have diverse skills and diversify. If you're facing barriers, then look elsewhere. You can always come back, and where my heart belongs, stage management, that is my natural go-to. I'm like a mother hen for it. I love looking after everyone. I love looking after the theatre, making sure everyone's all right. But it's also okay to have other skills. I think that's good. Kind of look beyond, like Chris said as well, be patient. You can broaden those skills, but still carry on and keep going to get to your end goal.
Delara, absolutely. I think that's really important, isn't it? Constantly upskilling yourself. And make yourself somebody that somebody needs as well. Really broaden your own horizons. Okay, so just before we move on, you obviously have very specific areas of interest and knowledge. Just a reminder to the audience, if you do have any specific questions for any of our panelists, please do send them in to the Q&A box.
Deepa saying, come on, I want more questions, as is Mary Jane.
Okay, we'll start with Deepa. So, Deepa, you have worked as a BSL consultant, obviously for companies where there's a lot of hearing people. Now, obviously, there are probably things that you always think of in terms of deaf requirements and needs. What would you say the one thing is that people always forget about or miss?
Like I said earlier, I think people don't really know how to work with deaf people. They don't know where to start, so they get into a panic and a flap about it, I suppose. But I think if you don't have that information, ask deaf people what they need. That's basic. Look at where you find good interpreters and get good interpreters involved. And access to work. A lot of people really don't know about access to work and what it is. Things are getting better. Definitely now, but you do need to help them. A lot of people think deaf people are expensive or disabled people are expensive, and so they're avoidant of that. They don't want to employ them. But they don't realise that we've got access to work which would cover the cost of interpreters. I think more and more theatre venues are looking at funding. So looking at funding to pay for interpreters and also access to work. So they're having to fund maybe half the budget at times. So a lot of people then don't look at deaf people, but we really need to educate them and change their attitudes to become more inclusive as a society. It's not fair to be left out. Really, we should be included. We should share that cost at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of people also who don't know how to work with interpreters in the rehearsal room. So we need to explain that. And that's why now a lot of deaf theatre creators will get an agent and get the agent then to explain this. So it takes the load off so that you're able to focus on being a creative. But, I'm a producer.
Yeah. It's exhausting, isn't it?
It is exhausting, yeah. So I have to ask all these questions and never assume. I think that's the number one thing, to never assume. Don't assume that people know.
Great, thank you. So I was just wondering, there obviously over time you can identify gaps in knowledge. How do you cover those gaps in knowledge? What kind of skills do you pick up? What journey do you go on?
Well, this is deeper. As I said earlier, obviously worked as a producer, and in stage text, I really understood about access admin and how to kind of discuss with theatre companies to get captions in, to ensure that you get the right audience and how to get them and so on. So there are lots of different projects. It's definitely, there are gaps, like legal, unions, and so on. Lots of things that, are gaps that I needed to fill. So thank you to definitely theatre who helped with that, looking at equity and contracts and so on. And then I went to China Plates for a course which focused specifically on producing. It was immense. I really took on everything, and it will start in April. So I've taken everything on that I can read so far, but I'm so excited to begin that.
Okay, yeah, so invest in yourself. That's really important, right?
It is important, yeah. I think, for me, when's the last time I actually focused on myself? Probably 6-7 years ago, realistically. Kind of really thought about where I wanted to go. And ever since then, I've kind of just gone and gone and gone, focused on other things. So yeah, it's important to take that time to focus on yourself, to look at where you are, look at where you want to go, and realize that maybe there's some stuff that you don't want to take with you on the rest of your journey. But yeah, focusing on yourself is key. I think also a consultant, having someone to talk to get a clear idea about where you want to go. Look at what you like, look at what you don't like, look at the stuff you want to explore a little bit more.
Absolutely. Or perhaps a mentor, Dilara said. So perhaps a mentor might help.
Yeah.
So what's your favourite part of your role as a producer?
Recently, I was in a play. I was pregnant at the time, to be honest, which was a struggle. I was due to give birth any day. And then it stopped for 6 weeks. I gave birth. But I think the play, it was called The Process. And it was fantastic. It was a really small theatre, and I was associate producer at that point. It was my first kind of professional producing job. It was the first, and that's how I decided, yep, that's exactly what I want to focus on, definitely. It was my favourite job or thing so far.
Oh, that's wonderful. Lovely. Thank you, Deepa. Okay, Chris, are you ready? I'm always ready. Dilara, okay. So recently you had a new project called Follow the Signs. So what's the concept behind that? Can you tell us a bit more? Chris, yes. So let me give you a bit of background. So in terms of this project, so the core of my work always focuses on a mixture of sign language and dance. I love playing around and being experimental with it. And it works really well together from what I've done so far. So signing on its own, to me, I thought, oh, do you know what? Let me try and do it as a bit of a wrap. Let me see if this works. And it does. It did work. And then working through I was doing a musical theatre tour. And in that cast, there was someone who's really keen about sign language, really enthusiastic. And, you know, he was a rapper. So I thought, okay, there's something that we can do here. We can collaborate. Perhaps he can rap and I can sign, and there's something we can do here as a project. So we had some really in-depth conversations. We didn't want to do a cover. We didn't want to do a cover song. We wanted something that was original, something that was ours, you know, something that really meant something to both of us. And, you know, through this process of developing it, and this is during the 6-month tour, the musical theatre tour. So as soon as we finished, we were ready to get started on this project. So talking about this song, so it talks about particularly identity. So myself as a Black deaf man, you know, what I really wanted to do with it is to empower people. You know, I'm not just a deaf man, I'm not just a Black man, I'm a Black deaf man. So yeah, I've got these different facets to my personality. You know, whether you're LGBTQI, whether you're this, whether you're that, it doesn't really matter. And I think these are the facets of our identity. And I think it's so important to be able to identify and reflect upon those. And it did take time to go through, but that was the overall idea, was really to express my struggles. You know, I've always tried to shy away from talking about those struggles that I've had. I don't want to talk about it. I want to bury all those in the past. It's gone. It's over. But actually, you know, I think particularly for the younger generation, I think it's quite important for them to see, you know, what has come before the success. You know, there has been failures, there have been problematic moments, there have been, you know, discriminations, there have been struggles, there's been campaigning, there's been bullying, there's been oppression. And, you know, actually what got me through was my love of music, my love of dance. That was my escape, you know, and that is where I want people the younger generation need to see that. So it's all about identity. Dolores, that's lovely. So it's a really honest exploration of your experiences. Chris, yes. So everything in there is based on my real life experiences. Delara, that's lovely. Hopefully in the future we'll be able to see more bilingual plays. What do you think the key to bilingual plays are? Chris, I think, you know, include BSL, yes. But I think specifically, can you ask me the question again? Delara, yes. So I know that you have been involved in bilingual plays where they've had obviously English and British Sign Language, which obviously is amazing. But what do you think is really key to that? Chris, so I think the key for bilingual plays is to have a BSL consultant. So just like Deepa was explaining, you need to have a BSL consultant who can then just reinforce, obviously, the director's vision, but also understands the language itself. So like Deepa said, you know, previously, don't assume that everyone knows everything or that you know everything as well. You need to have a BSL consultant in the room. They know what's best for both, not just what's best for the play, but it's about respecting the culture. It's about respecting the language, the identity of the deaf person that's in there as well. And it just lends much more authenticity, which helps the audience to understand what's going on stage. And I think that's what the BSL consultant is for, to really make sure that it's a polished performance in terms of the language that's used, but also to make sure the director's happy, the audience have taken away something from that. I think that's really important, and to get a greater understanding. And I think, you know, what you don't want is the audience to watch something and just completely misunderstand. You want them to have a full understanding all the way through, and that means you've done a good job. We're ticking the boxes. Delara, so tell me more about the process of choreographing. What is it like? Chris, so yes, so when I started to dance first, that's obviously where I started. I started doing freestyling and I was just experimenting. And I think back then, probably when I was like 12 or 13 years old, my auntie introduced me to a film called Breaking. I watched it and I was like, oh, this is fascinating. And I just became completely immersed in the visual movement of the dancing. Oh, it was amazing. So from that was when I decided, right, I'm going to become a self-taught dancer. I want to learn how to dance. So obviously to advance those skills, I went to college, I went to some classes, and I've been training, I think, for 8 or 9 years in these classes now. And obviously now I've become a choreographer as well. So this just means that what I've done is I've set up my own dance movement. So I wanted to make sure that I break down what we do. So obviously, particularly if a client says to me, "Oh, I want you to choreograph something for me," okay, that's great. But you have to think about, a count. What's the rhythm? It's not just about, okay, I can hear the music. No, you've really got to think about the count in the music. You've got to think about the rhythm, the formation of the dancers. How long is the piece going to be? What's the genetics of the music? You've got to really think about, for example, let's say if it's hip hop, there's so many different types of music. We've got to think about R&B. It's a lot slower, which can be easier to work out. But then if you've got a rap song that's really, really fast, you've really got to think about the tempo of that as well. So choreography just includes all of those things. So Laura, that's lovely. Hopefully you can teach me one day. Chris, yes, one day.
Mary Jane, me too. All of us.
Maybe all of us. Chris, you're all welcome, always. So Laura, okay, Mary Jane.
Yes.
So you've obviously had a variety of roles.
Yes. Loads of roles. Yep. Probably I'll never stop.
You've had so many different roles over the years. What would you say has been your favourite of all?
Oh, can I choose three? Am I allowed? Yeah.
Yes, you're allowed.
Yes. First one is definitely directing. I really enjoy directing plays, creating all aspects of it, directing it and seeing how it develops and how it comes to being and to the end where it's a show that an audience is watching, where they've learned something to pass on some form of education, inspire people. So when people leave a play, they're discussing how good it was or maybe how crap it was and why. But, it encourages that discussion. So definitely directing. Secondly, I love teaching my drama workshops. That is my fave. It's something so different, and any age from 3 all the way up to elderly, frail people with their walking sticks. I love drama workshops and teaching anyone at all. Oh, that is really fun. That's something I really love. And third is definitely stage management, of course. Backstage, I miss it. Naturally, that's my go-to, and I really miss it. But in the future, I want to go back to stage management, and I can flit between stuff. Maybe do 6 months of this, 6 months of directing, and a one-off, teaching a drama workshop or something. So between those three, it'd be difficult to choose. Actually, they are my faves.
Laura, thank you. So you set up the drama, is that right?
That's
so
right.
Can you talk to us a little bit more about that? Why did you set it up?
Good question. Right. Well, go back to the TARDIS, Doctor Who, your old police box, that blue box. So thinking about going back in the TARDIS a few years, let's go back, jump back. I set it up because in the Midlands there is no deaf-led theatre companies at all. They have integrated theatre companies, so yeah, they've got deaf and hearing, but nothing deaf-led. And also, there were other actors who wanted to do more. So I decided at that point to set up the drama. Before it happened, I got funding through the Deaf Explorers. So got funding for that, and that was to do some research and development about how to set up a theatre company. So I got the funding for that, and I went to Sweden, also Norway. So travelled around between them, visited their theatre companies over there, which are high spec. Wow. I mean, I'm talking about all the different roles, producers, deaf producers over there, just amazing deaf directors, artistic directors, CEOs, management, actors, so on, creatives. I mean, the list is endless. Management, admin, finance, so on. And I kind of met everyone there, and it was called Ties Theatre. It was changed to Krea. And then in Norway, it was called Stage Manu, which is their word for hands. So I visited both twice, flew over to Norway and Sweden twice to kind of get as much as I could out of that. And I decided from that point to set up the drama. Unfortunately, I didn't know how to apply for funding. So that was my sticking point, and we relied on ticket profits at that time to keep us going. So I was really grateful to the actors for volunteering their time, including myself. I volunteered my time, but this time we definitely have support from Deaf Explorers and also definitely theatre, which is great. So we're creating new networks, and watch this space, because hopefully there will be good things going on with the funding that we've received. So everyone will get paid professionally for their time. It will not be a voluntary. It will not be a voluntary task at all, because there was a gap there I identified, and that's why I wanted to fill that gap. And also, I was inspired to set this up. Sorry, I've waffled, haven't I? But yeah, that's the story. I didn't like a waffle.
Dilara, no, that's absolutely fine. That's really interesting, actually.
Deepa, I wanted to add actually to Mary Jade's point about Deaf Explorers. And that's really interesting, because you were talking about kind of deaf people applying for funding to set up any project, and the reluctance and, you know, the fear or the nervousness about it. But really, thinking about them applying for funding, they're able to then go off and do their own thing. So that's an avenue for support. So it's worth maybe contacting them and thinking, you know, if there is any need for funding, having that link with them and getting that word out to people. Mary Jane said, I think there might be a queue of people who might be applying for that funding. Definitely, it's, you know, really competitive at the moment. But I will put you in their queue if you would like, Deepa.
Dilara, thank you so much, both. We're okay. So we've got a lot of questions coming in, which is fabulous. Okay, question for Chris Fonseca. This is from Sarah, who is a deaf dancer. So as a deaf dancer, where do you go, Chris? So mostly, so I create a schedule. So for training, I go to Studio 68, which is based in Southwark. And second one is based, just clarify the spelling. Based in Vauxhall. Lovely. So basically, based in Vauxhall is really popular as well. So both of these two are fantastic. So I've been training there. I've learned so many different dance styles there as well. And it's just really helped for my professional development personally, to learn about different dance styles and to just experiment, to be honest, and have a go at different dance styles too. So there's techniques that you can learn. So maybe if there's a research and development opportunity or collaboration opportunity, you can exchange that breadth of knowledge that you've got as well. So I think never stop training is really, really important. I think actually, you know, if I become a teacher, that doesn't mean that I've learned everything that there is out there. I will be forever a student. And I think that's really important. That's a really key message I'd like to put out there, actually. I think just keep learning. So those are the two places that I go. You know, and I practice in my room as well. You know, if there's a new style, I experiment, and that's what I do. Wonderful. Deepa.
I think it's worth adding as well to the young people who are thinking about a future career as maybe freelance, thinking about paying for courses and so on. If you become freelance, obviously you're able to note things down for tax purposes, and you can get reductions in the cost as well. So it's worth going to courses to learn and to build up your skills. And like I said earlier, it's really important to invest in yourself. I think that will help you get out there and increase your profile, definitely.
So Lara, linked to that, we do have a question from Alyssa. So in terms of accessible courses, where are they? She's thinking about doing some costume design. Is there an accessible course anywhere? How do deaf people learn more about the other backstage roles that there are within theatre?
Mary Jane? Well, let me think about that. I only know about colleges. Rose Burford College. I believe that's in London. I think there was one person who is deaf, who did lighting or who does lighting. But I believe they only stay there for a year, and I think the issue was communication, and that's why they left. But that was quite a while ago, and I believe they will be happy, I think, to accommodate any deaf people who want to attend. I know they are very good at providing interpreters. And Alison Pottinger, who is my inspiration as a stage manager, she is amazing, a wonderful stage manager, and she's an interpreter as well, so she uses BSL, and she works with Rose Burford College, and I believe you can contact Rose Burford College for some information, to have a chat with them in relation to costume design and accessibility to their courses there, but I can't think of any other. Deepa, maybe you know? Deepa, I believe now there's a lot of drama schools who have improved their accessibility. They're really trying to become more inclusive, and any deaf people wanting to be involved in theatre like RADA, Lambda definitely has improved. They're really trying to be more inclusive. So it's usually worth getting in contact and posing the question, expressing your interest in fashion and clothing. I think it's different from acting courses, because acting courses is more reliant on like the vocal box and so on. But thinking about visual means of creative and costume design, I think they would be able to adapt and meet your needs. So don't be frightened to approach them. Go for it. Mary Jane. Oh, something's come to mind. Twins. I think Heroda and Hermon. I believe that's her name. Sorry if I've not spelt them right. Hermy. I think if you contact them, probably they have a network because they're in the fashion world. They might be the best people to contact. Other than that, I don't know who else, I'm afraid.
Chris, yes. So just in addition to that, actually, so I probably didn't mention before. So I studied graphic design. So as I said, there's no degree for dancing. It just doesn't exist. And I think, to be honest, you become a dancer through experience and through just trying, giving things a go. And the power of networking will get you to where I am now. Go to workshops, go to short courses, get out there and experience as much as you can. I've been really fortunate to have so much mentorship as well, and to really make sure that I know exactly where I'm going on my journey. And the dance industry is so competitive, I'm sure you can imagine. You have to really showcase your skills and your talent. And if you think about, it's like a hair, there's like literally, you put a hair into the deaf community, and that is the representation of how many deaf dancers there actually are. So if you just think about that, I think really think about where you want to go.
Indeed, but just wanting to add as well to what Chris was talking about, thinking about formal learning. I mean, for me, I've had no formal learning and, on how to be a producer. I'm, kind of nearly 42 now, and I'm just going to start a course in April. So thinking about my youth, I said yes to everything. That's what I did. And Mary Jane's agreement, volunteer for everything. Put your hand up and do everything possible. And Deepa's just saying, and then you get a wealth of experience, and that's where you see where the gaps are, and that's where you experience real life. Sometimes courses don't show you everything, and when problems occur in the real world, you wouldn't have seen them on the course, and that's how you learn more than anything. It's really rich, the experience that you can get from being part of real life and going for it.
So Laura, fantastic answers. Thank you very much. A question from James. So what part of your job would you say is the most challenging?
Who's that to, Deepa's just wondering?
All panelists, whoever wants to take lead. Chris, it's a very general question, isn't it? I'm trying to think.
Deepa, for me, I would make sure that BSL is shown on stage, definitely, without causing offence, obviously, to the deaf community. I think that's the biggest challenge. And deaf visibility, I think. At the moment, I think it's quite competitive. Are there enough jobs for deaf people? That's the next question we really need to pose. We need to create more then.
Chris, yeah, I think opportunities, or therefore lack of. I think, yes, you get opportunities, but there's a huge lack of accessibility, which then affects your ability to undertake that opportunity. So promoters will say, maybe in the advert, it will say, oh, this is for everybody, but they don't think about, okay, for the deaf community or wheelchair users or, LGBT, it doesn't cover everybody. It's not one size fits all. So sometimes, you've always, whenever I ask, can you provide an interpreter? There's always a bit of a reluctance. And I think sometimes it's about how you approach those challenges. How can you resolve those challenges? How do you build a good rapport with people and a foundation with them so that they start to understand what you really need? So like Deepa said earlier about, funding, people always think, oh God, a deaf person is going to be so expensive. So then they don't want to give us the opportunity. And actually, if they just have that conversation with you, they understand, oh no, actually, no, it's going to be fine. It's about giving them the opportunity to have the understanding. So I think the challenging part is lack of opportunity.
Deepa, just wanting to add to what Chris said, sorry Mary Jane, but I think opportunities, that's the hard part. I think people are reluctant, so they're wondering about how to break through. That's where that reluctancy is. And when you finally do that for the first time, that's when you realise actually how easy it is and you're ready to take that next step. But that first step is the hardest, isn't it? And you've really got to keep going.
Chris, it's also attitude, isn't it? It's people being so determined that they know exactly what things are, and you're like, no. Sometimes you have to try to persuade people, and there are some people you just will never manage to persuade.
Yeah, Mary Jane, just to add, I've been kind of ruminating on my thoughts, thinking about job advertising, jobs or funding applications once they open. Think about how many deaf people apply. There might be quite a lot. And also you've got disabled people applying as well. And, one deaf person could have got it, one disabled person got it, maybe one black person got it, one Asian people would get it, one LGBTQ. So, representation is that. But is that fair? I don't know. Trying to get more deaf and more disabled applying, but if they're seeing that only one deaf person gets it, that becomes a challenge if what they're seeing is, that barrier anyway. I think when you apply, you have to be really, really good at selling yourself at a high level as well. Because it's competitive out there. It's a competitive world. And Deepa, just to add, you've really got to have some thick skin, Be resilient through it all. And Mary Jane saying, yeah, and learn from it. Learn from it all, definitely.
To Laura, yes. I think, we know obviously where the opportunity will happen, but yeah, you've got to take it, haven't you? Okay. Role models. Who are your role models? Do you have a specific person that you look up to? Or how do they inspire you? Chris? Chris, to be honest, I think there's no role models from my era. I would say 2008, 2013. Yeah, not really. But I want to create a role model for the next deaf generation. That's what I want to do. I think there's only one person that I really look is Simon, my best friend, his older brother. He's a professional dancer. And I actually have been in his class a few times, and he's just amazing. You know, his expertise is huge, but also his proficiency in sign language is fantastic as well. So it means there's accessibility there. So I can always ask for tips. I can always ask for advice. So when I went freelance for the first time, I was really, I was struggling. I didn't know what to do. I was naive. I didn't know how to tackle the work world. What do I do? And I asked him, in the dance industry, I thought, God, what's most scary in the industry is as a dancer in the industry, there's always kind of, issues with finances. You never know if you're going to get paid. Whereas I think with actors, that there will be some sort of salary. And dancing is so competitive that it's really difficult, but you just have to go for it. You just got to give it a go. So thank you so much to my friend Cillian, who opened doors and opened a platform for me, I suppose, as well. And, that's what I want is for the next deaf generation to not have to struggle as much as I have. I want the door to be open for people to come after me, to follow, and to do what they want to do as well. You really got to work hard. You can't just rest on your laurels and it will come to you.
Deepa, for me, my role model was, going back years, but who taught me? My drama teacher. And he was called Ray Harrison Graham. He has been involved in so much, and at that time he was a pioneer. He was black, deaf man, and a dancer as well, actually. He did some signed song and so on. So imagine, going back then to the late 90s. No, he was already doing stuff before, so maybe 80s, 90s, actually. He was a pioneer and everyone followed him. He opened so many doors for us as deaf people. He wrote dramas, he did the Channel 4 Rush, and he wanted more diversity, and he fought for it. A lot of persuading, and he fought to get what he wanted. Oh, he was a fighter. He never gave up. And then after that, he tried his hand at writing, directing, and experienced barriers the whole way through. So it's thanks to him, honestly, that I'm here now, that I am where I am. Oh, Mary Jane saying wonderful. My role model, there's two. So you might think they're a bit strange, but one is my deaf club, definitely my deaf club in Bournemouth. Bournemouth Deaf Club. Oh, I loved it. The deaf club there, it was just I found my identity there, my deaf identity, inspired with drama and theatre, because there's a lovely community there, a really family community, really supportive of each other, really encouraging, and really bigged each other up, really created this huge support network. So that deaf club, the culture, the deaf culture, oh my goodness. That's where I found my deaf identity. It's amazing even thinking of it. So definitely Bournemouth Deaf Club from 12, and still today I still remember it fondly and think of the people I met there. Oh, it's lovely. Secondly, second person is when I was living in London, actually, at that time, from definitely theatre, and I definitely looked up to them, and that's where I decided that I wanted to do the same job. I wanted to do stage management. Their kind of resilience, determination. It's not a specific person, to be honest. It's more the group and how supportive they were of each other, how they, helped each other, how they empowered each other, how they inspired and passed things on to the next generation and showed that you can do it. The person is more of a group, to be honest. So, yeah, those are my two.
Amazing, thank you.
Deepa, it's interesting, actually. There's a theme linked to solidarity. Oh, I can't even spell it, can I? Solidarity. I can't spell. Oh my goodness. But that's what I mean. Solidarity. You've got it. Kind of working together. I think that's so key, isn't it? Through COVID and through this pandemic, I think there has been more solidarity between everyone, and we've really kind of kept each other up. And I think we need to continue with that. Mary Jane, definitely. I completely agree.
Agree. Dilara, that's beautiful. Okay, I think we have time for one last question. Chris Fonseca. So, you had an opportunity on The Greatest Dancer show. And what was the whole experience of that like? So the application process, to being picked to audition and then not getting through. What was that like for you, Chris? Oh, it was an incredibly emotional experience, to be honest. I would say it was such a random thing to happen. So I got a DM on Instagram, so a direct message, and they were looking for dancers, and I thought, oh, it's not going to be for me. I wasn't really paying attention to it. I just thought, oh, I was thinking about Britain's Got Talent and things like that, and I was kind of just thinking, well, all I would get there is just a pat on the back for being deaf and a dancer. Okay, great. So I just wanted to avoid those types of shows. But actually, then they said, "Oh no, this will be a really good show. I think you should do it." And I just thought, oh, I don't know. And I thought, okay, it's great exposure, but I was worried about the reaction that I would get. All people were going to focus on was my deafness. Are people going to look at me for my talent or for me as a deaf person? So then I thought, you know what? Let's just go for it. Let's just see what happens. I wouldn't know if I didn't give it a go. So I did. And obviously, I started having a conversation through email. It was such a long process. There was so much paperwork. Oh my God, it was so laborious. I remember the amount of emails. I will never forget how long it took. The constant emails. Oh, I need this. I need this. I need this from you. I need this from you. They were just trying to be as prepared as they could in advance, and that's fine. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, is that it now? And then, oh no, sorry, we need some more stuff. And I was like, oh my God. Send everything through. Eventually, they had everything that they needed. The audition actually took place in Birmingham. I think at the Mac. Yeah, I think it was at the Mac in Birmingham. So I went along. I went with my brother. I asked him, do you want to come with me? He was like, yeah, obviously. Why not? So we went along to Birmingham. And we obviously got into the Mac, introduced who we were, looked at who the other dancers were, a bit of networking, have a conversation with people. Which was quite interesting. And then somebody said to me, oh, you'll be auditioned at 3:00. I thought, all right, okay, fine. Lovely. So waited and waited and waited. And then it was my turn finally. I think it was like, I don't know, I waited for 8 or 9 hours. It was just ridiculous. Anyway, so when I got in, when they called my name, oh my God, the nerves. When I just saw Chris, I was like, oh my God, I was so nervous. I can't explain. So I went into the reception, said hello to the receptionist, got introduced. They asked me, am I ready for my audition? Yep. Okay, fine. It was really bizarre, actually, because the set obviously was as a studio. So they told me that the set was actually a studio. But it meant if I had actually got through, it depended on the audience's vote. I think you have to get over 80% of something. Yeah, I think it's 80%. You have to get 80%. And then obviously the doors will open and you'll see the audience who are watching you. So I just remember, they said, if you feel really emotional, you could stop us, you could say no. And I said, no, hang on a minute. I've been really rehearsing for this. I need to have this opportunity. It doesn't matter how emotional I get, I'm going to carry on. Anyway, so I danced and danced and danced. And when those doors opened, oh my God, I had to stay focused because I could hear the audience's noise that they were making. And it meant it was overpowering the music. And I said, oh my God, I need to carry on. And then I was trying to find the rhythm again. Yep, I know where I am in the music. Fine, carried on. It was a great experience. And I think it was about a week later that I went for the callbacks. And there were so many of us. And it meant obviously the judges then, we were right at the back. So then they would call you forward. And I said, thank you so much for your hard work. You can go home now. And I was just like, I was like, oh my God, that could be me. I don't know. So I was eventually got to the front, and then they called me forward. So Chris and somebody else. And we weren't sure at that point, okay, we're going to get told to go home or not. You know, and you get all these, oh my God, it's amazing. I've got goosebumps. You're a deaf dancer. You're amazing. You know, it was a really difficult decision, and we've been talking about it. And then they said, oh, you know, you're going home. And I was so gutted. I really was. But, you know, I was talking to the presenter actually afterwards, and they said, you know, how did you feel? And I said to them, I'm devastated actually. I thought I'd got through this stage, but actually as a whole, process for me really kind of shifted my direction. After that, I just thought, you know what? I just started working harder, and it was the busiest time ever of my career. So I think then I did the Wind in the Willows 6-month tour. Then I've just done so much stuff. So I think that rejection there, that no, really shifted my trajectory of my path. And I just thought, you know what, I don't need to worry about this. I can keep going. I can keep doing what I do. Those opportunities will come. I knew them that they were out there. So it was such an emotional experience. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Wow.
So Laura, that's wonderful. Thank you. Oh, okay. So we're running short of time. I think we've actually come to the end. Thank you so much for your contributions. Thank you so much. You've taught us a lot. And thank you for your wonderful answers too. Thank you.
Mary Jane, thank you so much for inviting us here, Dee. So thank you so much as well.
So Laura, you're very welcome. And also a thank you to our interpreters. Thank you to Julie for the captioning as well. Thank you very much. And thank you to our wonderful interpreters. Thank you to the audience as well for your fantastic questions. Thank you so much. And everyone's saying thank you to Definitely Theatre too. Oh, Dolores, stop. Okay, no, thank you all. Dolores, okay, so for our audience, just to let you know, we will be sending you out a survey. We'll pop it out now. And if you can just fill out the survey just to give us some feedback, that would be fantastic. Of course, we will be sending out, obviously, our Definitely Theatre newsletter. Of course, you'll be in there too. Thank you very much for coming. And we hope you've enjoyed the event, and we hope to see you all soon. Chris, thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye to everybody.